Your homepage is not your homepage anymore. Your homepage is what Google says about you. It's what ChatGPT says about you. It's what Instagram says about you. It's what Reddit says about you. It's what YouTube says about you.
That was Rand Fishkin, co-founder of SparkToro, co-founder of AlertMouse, one of the sharpest voices in history of digital marketing. In this episode, we talked about his study, published on the SparkToro website, link in the description, where he found that you need to ask an LLM to give you a list of brands 1,500 times before you get the same list ordered the same way. That is wild. We also talked about why AI tracking tools are not exactly what they promise to be. Also, why the best brands of the last 30 years were not built on digital marketing. And if you're wondering about this, a kitchen knife, you have to listen to the episode. This is No Hacks. Let's get into it. Rand, welcome to No Hacks. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, I'm honored, Sonny. Thank you for having me.
There's a lot of bad stuff happening on the internet, but let's talk about the good stuff. What is the best thing that AI has brought online?
I think for some people who understand it and use it well, it's enhanced productivity. I talked to a number of engineers in particular who say a lot of their job has been made more efficient, easier, more stress-free, more bug-free. Um, and Casey, my co-founder at SparkToro, was always stressed out about the number of features and requests that I was bringing to him. Oh, I think our users would really like this and this and this. And only recently he said, give me all your feature requests. I can build them now.
It has changed in that sense for sure. I was a web developer. Then I went into CRO, and now that this is available, I want to do web development again. I want to build stuff because you can go from idea to I'm not fully polished product. There's a lot of work, but you can move fast.
Idea to prototype is much, much faster.
Incredible. Yes, it's the best time to be the idea person, and then realize that you don't have the audience, and you don't have the delivery methods.
Marketing has not been made easier by AI. If anything, the inverse.
Look,
because the bar is so much higher to get attention.
There's a reason vibe marketing is not a thing and vibe coding is a thing, and vibe marketing will never be a thing unless you consider the cold email where you buy a list and then AI writes, no, it's bad. Just don't do that. Don't do that if you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I don't see vibe marketing ever becoming a possibility.
Agreed. The research you did at SparkToro, it's fascinating.
Oh, thank you.
How consistent is AI when they're recommending products?
AI is inconsistent across the board on everything because it's a probabilistic output model. And so the problem here, the fundamental problem, Sonny, that I think listeners would appreciate and need to understand is that if you ask ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or Google's AI overview or Google's AI mode, if you ask those systems and services a question, a prompt that would lead to a brand recommendation, a product recommendation, a service recommendation, or a list of those things, you are not getting an answer when you ask. You are getting one of thousands or potentially millions of answers. And every time you ask, it's going to be different. And every different person who asks is going to get a different list, a different number of items in the list, a different order of list items, and a different set of product or brand or service recommendations. And if you don't fundamentally understand that, here, let me say it as clearly as the study made it. In order to get two lists of brands that are the same in an answer, on average, you would need to ask Claude or ChatGPT 1,500 times. 1,500 times before you get two answers with the same list of brands in the same order.
It's not likely to happen, is what you're saying there. Why do people trust it blind? Why do people go to therapy to ChatGPT? Why don't they ask again to see if it's going to stay the same?
You know what's crazy about this study? After I did it, I could no longer ask AI tools any question one time and believe the answer that I got back. Like personally, after doing this study, for example, I was shopping for some kind of getting into like the world of classic menswear, and I'm like, oh, I need some shoes, some nice leather shoes,
Hmm.
that are going to Oxfords or Derbies or something. And so I asked, I think it was Google's AI mode, and I got a list of brands. And then I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I need to ask again and again and again. And so I just asked 12 times. And then once I had the full assembled list, that's what I sent to myself to go check out each of those brands that got mentioned, which was, it was like 40-ish brands that were mentioned across 12 answers. Sometimes as few as 3 were mentioned
Right.
by Google. This is one of those, like, if one of those brands was trying to understand their presence in the AI ecosystem, what are they going to do,
It's
man?
not easy. Also, different number of brands being mentioned in every response is very fascinating. Which doesn't it makes sense when you know how they work, but as a
Yeah,
user, as someone looking for information, it doesn't make sense at all, and it's just
it's
jarring.
kind of it's kind of wild. I think even worse is many of the AI tools, your Profounds or whatever, that they try and track your presence in these AI tools and give you your rankings and your presence numbers. And they intentionally ask the AIs, give me 5 or give me 10 recommendations for this, which the AI will then do. It will then give you a consistent list. But nobody in the data set, when you look at how people actually use AI prompts, nobody asks for a number like that. And
We'll
so
get to
you're getting a really false sense from these tools of your brand presence in these places.
synthetic queries. I think you call them that in one of the articles. Kung Pao versus peanut butter. We'll get to that. That I love that. That's just amazing. Also, the fact that you used chef knives, and I have a collection of Japanese chef knives. I was hooked in from the beginning. I completely disagree with the top recommendation. It just pulled from Wirecutter, the Mac. It's not bad. Yeah, I love
I
this.
really look, if you care about chef's knives, if you care about any product, any service, you need to understand how those products and services were chosen and why they're recommending those products in that order. What are the criteria that are being considered? And frankly, most of the editorial lists on the internet for product recommendations, in your example of Wirecutter knives, it was really just, did the reviewer like it? Did they like the way it felt in their hand, which is different than your hand? Did they like the way it chopped vegetables, which they probably chop vegetables different than you? What do they use, a pinch grip or a handle grip? Are they a trained chef? Have they been to culinary school? You don't know. You don't know any of these things. This is why the only thing that, in my opinion, is um, reasonable in these worlds, if you really care about getting the right product recognition, is to find a list with true criteria.
Right.
For example, Scott Heimendinger did the quantified knife project where he has a robot arm, piercing the skin of a tomato 1,000 times with different knives, and then telling you which one pierces the skin with the least force. There you go. There's data and criteria behind a knife recognition. AIs don't do it. And I wonder, Sonny, I truly wonder if 5 years, 6 years, 10 years from now, people are going to be like, huh, remember when we used random statistical lotteries of words to try and give us advice?
Is it 10 years in the future, or is it a year or 6 months from now? Because I think the reckoning will happen. If it's 10 years from now, we're in trouble. If people trust this for 10 years before we realize it, that this is not the way. How is
Yeah.
this better than Google search? Is this better than Google search, in your opinion?
I personally, I think it's worse, but I will say so many people like it and have embraced it and feel that it's useful. And you can see in the usage statistics that, approximately 30-40% of Americans at least have adopted AI as a primary, not the primary. Google is still their primary. Google's usage has not gone down even in the era of rising AI. Um, they've adopted it to the degree that I don't think you're going to easily pull it out of their work and personal ecosystems. But I hope that there are moments of reckoning that each person experiences individually, or some big pop culture or media event or that kind of thing that
Yeah.
causes people to reevaluate their relationship with AI and how much they should trust the answers.
Do you think ads might make people trust AI less once if they become a thing? Or is that just distraction?
I suspect no, actually. One of the odd things, I'm sure you've seen this too with media that you produce, right? So like it's strange to say, but podcasts and YouTube channels that have sponsored
Mm,
advertising, that have sponsors, are often perceived by listeners or viewers as being more trustworthy.
that's a good point.
And I think that's because their past associations are, oh, big important things have ads in them. So this must be a big important thing. Things with no ads in them, it's free, who's behind it, what's going on there. It's really interesting. Even though ads are fundamentally something we say we hate, they can cause us to trust a platform or a source of media
That's
more.
a really good point. It's more legitimate if it has ads because TV has ads, radio has
Yeah,
ads, YouTube has ads. I don't like
I
the
think we
fact that
grew up with it.
yeah,
We grew up with it, so we're used to it. So now it's part of the pattern.
that's a good point. Now, the Kung Pao chicken versus peanut butter. This is a brilliant analogy, and yes, I agree with that. So this is about prompt variability, and
Yeah.
most of the tools that I've seen that do visibility tracking, AI visibility tracking, there's some synthetic queries, synthetic prompts, and they keep asking and asking and like you said, give me 5 brands, give me 10 brands, give me this. That's not how people talk. That's not how people ask their AI anything. How much of a problem is that?
Okay, full honesty here. When I went into this experiment, what I thought was that it was complete BS, total baloney, right? Just that the whole AI tracking industry was a scam. That's really
Mm-hmm.
what I believed. And this experiment was designed to sort of prove that hypothesis. One of the core pieces of that hypothesis is that synthetic queries, which is essentially you ask an AI, hey, a bunch of users are interested in men's leather brogues, men's leather Oxfords. What are the brands that you would recommend? And like, oh, give me the list of prompts that people would be likely to ask an AI. That's a synthetic prompt. You've asked an AI what humans would tell the AI in their prompt.
Right.
Are they good at that? Do they get close to the same things that real human beings do? Do they have enough training data to do that? The answer is weird, because when we asked a few hundred people to craft a B2B prompt and a B2C prompt. Like, hey, you're looking for a service brand to help your friend with like a marketing brand advertising campaign for a local coffee shop. And we asked them to come up with one for, hey, you're buying headphones for a family member for the holidays. And so we asked them to make these two prompts. No two prompts were even close to the same, right? These 150 people who wrote up their prompts and submitted them to us, and the lexical similarity, which is something you can. This is a great use of
Mhm.
AI. You can ask an AI tool to do a lexical comparison in Excel, right? And they're really good at that. They can do that kind of math for you on the fly. The lexical comparison was so low. I want to say the number was like 0.07 or something. One would be, they're saying exactly the same thing. This number, 0.07, was something like the similarity between Kung Pao chicken and peanut butter. Extremely low lexical similarity, maybe contains a few of the same core ingredients like
Right. Yep.
peanuts, but other than that, fundamentally different. So the answer to part A is no. AI's bad at telling you what prompts people actually use. The weird part, Sonny, is the brands that are produced from the human created prompts and the AI created prompts show a lot of similarity. It's as though essentially under the hood, the AI understands the intent of the headphone request, right? The headphone for a family member request, no matter how you phrase it. even though the phrasing was totally different and people were asking about like iOS compatibility, or they were asking about noise canceling headphones or good headphones for travel or whatever, even though those were all in there, the brands that were produced looked very similar to what, the 10 queries that were run 100 times each done by the synthetic AI.
That's interesting.
Those two match.
That's very interesting.
Which suggests that AI tracking is not complete BS.
Correct. But as a share of model and not rankings, and of course.
Rankings is right out. Rankings is fully out. Don't trust anything with rankings. You can roughly trust if the systems are designed right, and you should make sure, if you're using AI tracking, you should make sure that the systems are designed right. You should look at that research and then ask your AI tracking tool the questions that I put at the bottom there. If it's done right, you can measure things like how often is Crockett and Jones or Alan Edmonds or Churches in the men's Oxford's recommendation, and how often are they missing?
Right. And that's going to be fairly consistent. Not 100% consistent, but you can get a good idea. That's brand visibility.
If you sort of ask the right number of prompts, the right number of times with some variability, you can get a statistical number that's basically plus or minus 5% or plus or minus 1% if you go really hard. So
and that's
you can
something
get there.
You can work with. That's real.
Yeah.
Even though it's AI. But that entire industry, how much of it is snake oil based on the tools that are available today? In theory,
from what I
work,
see,
but in practice?
Yeah. From what I see, there are a few providers who seem to be paying attention, doing it right, and making some attempts. I talked to some folks this past week. They were basically showing me their system, introduction from a friend, and I was like, I'm not in this industry. I have no horse in this race. I just don't want to see marketers get scammed. And they were like, well, here's how we do things. I was like, oh, well, yeah, that's exactly how our research shows. And they were like, yes, when we saw your research, we were very excited because we want our customers to be asking the right questions. Some of the big names, though, I think many people have heard of a company called Profound, which is backed by Andreessen Horowitz, which, whatever. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about Epstein connected people, but like whatever. And then
try not to feel about. I try not to think about them, but
right. Like, I don't, who knows? Maybe the guys behind Profound are like awesome and great, and they just happen to get backing from a bad VC or whatever. But I mean, I think that their systems seem to be doing some things that I think even proponents of them are like, oh, I wish they did it differently.
That is interesting. So what are the questions that a business should be asking from this tool before they commit and before they spend money on it?
Yeah. I think this is the frustrating part. It's a little complex and mathy. I would tend to tell folks, you should go read the research. You don't have to read the whole thing, but at the bottom, there's like these 5 or 6 questions that you should be asking your AI tool provider and your AI tracking tool provider. And those are essentially things like, where do you get your prompts? And like, how do you determine that those are similar to real human prompts? Where do you get your real human prompts to compare against? What's right. The source? Are you getting clickstream data? Who are you buying it from? Whatever. And then how many times are you running each prompt to sort of, get to statistical significance? Have you published some research showing the statistical significance of your prompts and with a strong stats approach and all that kind of stuff? How does that compare to? I linked to Neil, who's the PhD stats candidate who works with Gumshoe. He published a great post showing essentially like, here's how many times you need to run a prompt to get to, confidence intervals that are high enough. So you should be asking those kinds of questions. And then I would also be asking, what's the metrics that you report back?
Right.
Are you pretending that rank is a thing and it's real? Are you using a number in your prompts? Are you saying, give me 5, give me 10, give me 15? Because nobody does that. So measuring that variability is really important. And then presence, essentially percent of visibility is the number that that's real,
Right.
right? That an AI tracking tool should be giving you. So it's not like Google rank tracking. It's more like when brands in the 20th century used to survey consumers and they would say like, hey, have you heard of Nike shoes? Have you heard of Adidas shoes? Have you heard of Reebok shoes? Right. And consumers would be like, oh, I've heard, 80% of consumers have heard of Reeboks and 90% have heard of Nike, that kind of thing.
That's a full circle moment just with AI. How come Mad Men did branding better than we did in the 21st century with all the tools we have available? Like, it's just mind-boggling that it took not AI, LLMs and generative AI. Let's not call that AI because it's a subset. It's not the same thing. It's not a full match. Why did it take that to go back to doing things properly?
I mean, first off, I would argue we are not doing things properly, yeah, right? But I'd
Consider
also
doing it
say I
properly.
don't think, yeah, I don't think that world of sort of branding, brand advertising, positioning, I don't think it ever went away. I think those folks, right, the Ogilvies and the brand builders in this world, I think they had a shockingly successful run over the last 30, 40 years. It's just been disparate from the digital marketing world. Like digital marketing had so much growth, basically growing from zero to hundreds of billions of dollars. What, most of that is advertising with Meta and Google, granted, but that world grew so much so fast, brought so many people like you and I, digital marketers into the fray, that the brand world, which was still building great brands and doing great brand marketing, just it's not in our awareness as much.
That's an excellent response. There's so much, let's call it noise, over the signal that you can't even see the real branding, like the things you mentioned. So not the way I looked at it before, but I think I agree with that take 100%. Let's talk.
I'm worried, Sonny. Like I'd be worried that if you were to analyze the companies and brands that had the most success over the last 30 years, I'd be worried that very few of them would be built on digital marketing. And a lot of them would be built on classic brand marketing, brand building, brand advertising.
If you exclude tech companies, I think it's 100% almost. Yeah. I mean,
yep.
Interesting point.
Yeah. Show me the consumer brand that won their market by ranking #1 in Google. I don't know that they exist.
That's a good point. That's such a good point. But let's talk about AI as a hype machine. How does the hype exceed reality? Is any of this real? You called it. I'm quoting you. I like this. That's why I'm quoting you. Spicy autocomplete. My phrase is Grammarly on steroids since it came out, and kind of what it is. It's useful for some tasks, absolutely, and I think it's very useful for a lot of things that people don't really care about, and not as useful and good at things that people are pushed into caring about. And we have a problem there. What's your take?
Yeah.
Is it? It's not bad. It's not all bad. You can do stuff with AI.
No,
Everyone will say that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have had hundreds of thousands of rows of data inside Excel that I needed categorized and classified in linguistic ways that before an AI plugin would have been, I mean, I basically would have paid someone thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, right, to like do it manually or build a system to do it. And now it's like 10 cents, like that's really nice. Like that really does save me time. It allows me to produce research that previously would have been inaccessible to someone like me. Wonderful. I think it can be great for surfacing insights like, hey, here's this analytics data, here's this traffic data. Are there any interesting trends or correlations that you found that look problematic or promising? And it can surface things, right? Things for you to investigate. It's great for writing code. Like it writes code as well as a good engineer would. Many people are saying it's getting toward what a great engineer could write. Granted, you still have to connect all these systems. You can't be like, hey, can you just connect Stripe to my bank account and then and like, whoa. And you're not going to confirm that. And you don't care if the money goes to the wrong place. Like you got to confirm everything, right? So it's become like a little worker bee. But I think the unfortunate part, and the part that is, to my mind, fundamentally wrong, is when human beings think that AI has taste and a point of view and real world perception or experience. It has none of those things, and therefore it cannot create anything creative. Like, by its nature, it can't be creative. It can only produce patterns that it's seen before. That's fundamentally how it works. There's nothing new and creative that it can make. It can put words into a potentially new order, and then, I don't know, some people can be fooled into thinking that's new, but it's not new. And the other thing it cannot do is it cannot do creative endeavors in ways that are acceptable for publication. Can it give you ideas? Absolutely. Can it give you something to review that you then polish, and sometimes you're surprised because it's 90% good, and sometimes you're less surprised because it's 10% good and you start all over? Sure. But I think the other issue, I'm sure you feel the same way, Sonny, is everything creative that it does, or everything creative that it can do or is asked to do, it's built on technology that is fundamentally unethical and should have been illegal.
I could not agree more. I have my takes on big tech that I've shared a lot of times on this podcast. That none of them are good, positive. Maybe they're good. Maybe I believe they're good, but they're not. I think the world is better without big tech. That's my take on big tech. Without tech billionaires, without all of the damage they're doing, I think we'll be in a better place. I mean, look at the is it deposition trial for Zuckerberg that's happening now about social media addiction? And I was talking to a friend over the weekend. My daughter is 11. His daughter is 11. They go to school together. How lucky we are that it's going to get banned just before they jump on the train, because Europe is starting to ban social media for under 16. And I'm so glad that she wasn't 11 5 years ago, because life would be significant. And those are the formative years. Did they ruin life? Anyway, big tech. We can talk about big tech and the damage. And hopefully humanity will for a long time so it doesn't happen again.
I know there's people who sort of believe, hopefully, that AI slop will make social networks and social media so unusable that no one wants to go to them, right? That essentially, like, it's filled with so much junk, you can no longer believe anything on there. There's whatever. Here's an engaging video. Oh, is that real? Did that happen? No, it didn't. I can't even tell. And so people turn off social media in a way, in the same way that they sort of lost trust in other institutions in the last 40, 50 years. I don't know. That seems like an optimistic case to me, but
that's not the way to do it. If you're solving a problem, you don't set your house on fire because the problem is inside the house. Like, it's just if you're hoping AI slop will...
Oh, no. This is the American way.
Okay.
I mean,
I will not argue that. No, but it's wrong. It's just slop will save us is the weirdest thing anyone can think, and I hope no one seriously thinks that. But even with all the negative things that a lot of people do know, if you read Karen Howe's book, if you follow people like Gary Marcus and all of the Ed Zitron on Better Offline podcast, all those people, you know that AI is not all flowers. It's not all roses. There's a lot of negative one. A lot of people still believe it's the best thing ever, and it certainly gets a lot of hype around it.
Yeah.
And yet, Google is still 200 times bigger than ChatGPT and not going away. And ChatGPT is declining. This is a recent metric, that the number of users, also the number of queries in ChatGPT, they're not all search. This is not killing Google by any. This is just a chat buddy, like a virtual friend for a lot of people. Do you think we'll get the narrative back? The narrative will kind of right itself, and people will realize that this is not killing Google. This is not replacing anything. This is maybe an addition to the field.
I think so. I mean, I recall several cycles like this before, right? One was mobile is going to kill desktop, right? And what happened was mobile did become almost 2/3 of internet use, and yet desktop activity basically stayed the same for the last 15 years. I mean, it's wild to remember, but in 2011, I just looked up the statistic. In 2011, only 7% of web traffic was mobile devices.
Incredible.
That's not that long ago.
Incredible.
Like, that's crazy. 93% desktop. Now we're in a, now we're in a 66% mobile world. And the next one was social media. Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. There were so many articles. You can go back to 2012, 13, 14, 15. So many articles written about how they were going to kill search. They're replacing Google. TikTok for a while, when TikTok was rising, people were like, oh, they're going to kill Google. Nothing ever kills Google. Like, it never, ever happens. It stays big. This is the same thing. And I believe in a few years, we'll look back and everyone will be like, oh yeah, I never believed that, even though they're the one who wrote the article,
Yes.
you know?
And let's not ignore metaverse because that was supposed to replace everything.
Right. Oh,
the $70 billion went somewhere that was supposed to replace life and Google and with no lags and such a
insane, so insane. I mean, to me, it was a lot like the crypto world or the world of blockchain. NFTs, right?
Absolutely.
NFTs were going to be this massive asset class, and oh my God,
So if this LLM visibility is not about rankings, what is it? How do you optimize your presence with AI as a part of the equation?
Yeah. Well, so a lot of folks smarter than I am on this stuff have pointed out, and I'm sure you probably have some of you on your show, right, that there's essentially two modes of appearing, two ways that you can appear inside AI responses. One is through the base models themselves. So this is essentially your brand appears next to the words from the prompt and from the query fan out frequently. If you want to be ranking highly for, leather Oxford brogues, men's shoes, make sure that whenever people talk about those topics on the web, your brand is mentioned on that page, hopefully close to those other words, and in context. If the New York Times is doing a new piece on what are the best leather shoes, Oxfords for men, your brand better be on that list, right? If a bunch of bloggers in the shoe world are talking about it, if people on the style forum, website are talking about it, if there's subreddits in men's fashion that are talking about it, you need to be in those conversations. If you're not mentioned in those places and your competitors are, they will show up when the model produces results. The second way to show up is through what's called retrieval augmented generation, RAG, which essentially is it's the AI doing web searches the same way you and I would search Google. And in fact, ChatGPT has probably produced a ton more Google searches because we know that they just, they send a lot of their queries right over to Google.
Yeah.
So when you want to show up in those results, the answer is rank highly in Google, right? Definitely the first page, hopefully the top few results. And often you'll be pulled from, if it doesn't have to be your website, weirdly enough. So as an example, if there's a popular post on men's fashion in the subreddit and that ranks highly and your brand is mentioned in those results, good news for you, right? Like, that is going to be pulled into the search result and then shown in Google's AI mode or ChatGPT's answer or Claude's or whatever. So there's these two ways. The challenge here is it's always changing, Sani. Like, it is changing so fast. It's like the early days of Google where they're trying to put the hammer on various spam techniques. Like, remember, for the last year until probably like 2 or 3 months ago, you could just make a bunch of shitty blog articles, with that were like top men's shoes, and then put your brand at the top of them. And you would just show up at the top of ChatGPT. And that's working less now. And I'm sure in 6 months it won't work at all. But,
early days of Google is really the best possible comparison, which is why lately I've tried to get as many of the SEO OGs, because they have figured this out once. No, I'm not joking at all. You figure this out once, how machines interpret things, and maybe we go to the people who already did it once and try to find the answers. So another thing you wrote about is that now what you are online and what your brand is basically what AI decides it is. How
Absolutely.
do simple brand mentions, is there a direct correlation between simple brand mentions and AI visibility?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The the more complex answer is it depends on where the mention
Right.
is, who the mention is from, and whether the mention is relevant. And it also depends on when the AI model was created and how frequently they're updated, and the curation process for those things. So it, it's a complex answer, but absolutely. I think what's kind of nice about this world, what's a little bit nice about AI visibility versus SEO visibility in the early days. SEO visibility, especially up until like 2012, 13, it was so much about these technical things that if you weren't closely connected to the SEO field, you would never even think about. Like,
I agree. Yeah,
the biggest
that's a
example
great
is,
point.
why do I care who links to me and who doesn't? If I'm producing a good product and people are talking about my brand on the web and they're saying good things and I get good reviews, and whenever the press publishes articles, they say good things, and editorial coverage of us is good, people are making videos about us, why do I need to care whether that mention contains a link or not? And you're right. And then the people who said, oh, I got a link. Yeah, but the link doesn't have the anchor text for the keywords of your. What the hell are you talking about? Like, that's such crap. That is such a stupid ranking signal.
Uh,
And yet it really influenced how Google showed things. Nowadays, with AI, yes, there's some gamification and there's some like shady things you can do. But you know what? If you ask 10 people, hey, what are some, fancy men's shoe brands that you've heard of that make Oxfords and Brogues and Derbies, people would name like, I don't know, 5 or 6 brands, and so will AI.
yeah,
They will also name those brands, because what tends to get reflected in AI is what people talk about, and what gets sort of promoted and what's in the mainstream conversations. That's kind of nice.
that's great.
That's kind of nice, because the same way you build your brand offline is the way you now build your brand online.
So there's something good about it. There's something positive about it.
There's something, yeah.
Also, the name of
It's better than last
it's
time.
better. The name of the
It's better than
podcast is
last.
No Hacks, and I started it 5 years ago. This week was 5th-year anniversary, because all those things you said,
Oh,
you mentioned, they're hacks that worked until they didn't. And we're now moving into the no hacks era. Sure, there's always going to be something, but it gets exposed much faster and it
fast.
backfires in a more spectacular way. Like all those
Yeah.
Reddit bombers that wanted to get into ChatGPT by bombing Reddit, where are you now?
Didn't.
And they
Yeah.
knew it wasn't the right thing to do. It's just today this seems to work, even though it's stupid.
Yeah.
Let's do it as much as we can. I like all of that. Let's
Yeah.
One thing that you've talked about, let's talk about the framework for this new world and how brands can exist and attempt to thrive in this, because nobody knows what fully works. One thing you've been talking about for a long time is the zero click, and you've been on that before it kind of officially, before the crocodile mouth in Google Search Console, before all that. Is this the next step of that zero click and traffic as a vanity metric?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Google took a lot of pride in, was that 2024, 2023, saying like, hey, despite these, AI overviews and the new answers that we're putting in and all these instant answers, we are sending more traffic to the open web than we ever had before. And last year they shut up about that, because right, that crocodile graph, impressions go up, clicks go down. And Google is absolutely answering more and more searches without sending a click out. And many people, I mentioned 30 to 40% of Americans are turning to AI tools and Google's AI mode rather than a list of potential search results to click on. And so what that means is, when people search for your category, your topic, the thing that you do, or you specifically, their first impression of your brand is not coming from your website. Your homepage is not your homepage anymore. Your homepage is what Google says about you. It's what ChatGPT says about you. It's what Instagram says about you. It's what Reddit says about you. It's what YouTube says about you. It's a different world.
It's more honest. And another former guest in this podcast, Jonah Alderson, who you probably know as well, the technical SEO guy, he said this is basically upstream engineering. If you were optimizing the website, time to go upstream and
Yep.
do some real work.
Yep.
If you just wanted to,
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. If you think back to the 20th century, no shoe brand thought that their store was the first and only experience, right? It was, hey, people have this brand perception, and that comes from television and radio and word of mouth, and it comes from their driving experiences and highway billboards and their perception when they go to the mall and see the front of the shop. That is also now true on the internet,
Yep.
right? It's no longer I search for the shoe brand, I go click on their website, or I search for, whatever, top Oxfords, and then your site is ranking number one. That looks suspicious. Like, now that looks shady.
That's a good point.
I wanted to see a list of shoe brands. Why is your one website ranking number one?
That's a very good
That's
point.
sketchy, man. Like, you must have, fooled Google.
We're not calling SEO as a profession sketchy. Let's be clear about that. The entire industry, it's not, absolutely not. But something's changing.
It's so much less
Something
sketchy than it was.
yes.
Like when you and I got into it, it was so sketchy. Now it's a very normal
keyword stuffing used to
marketing
work.
practice.
Content cloaking used to work. All those stupid things used to absolutely work until they stopped working. So with SEO, with everything changing, what career options do SEO people have? Like, how can they continue doing the work that they've been doing for 20, 30 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think their work is more important than it's ever been. More important than it's ever been, because remember that alligator chart that we're talking about, right? Where essentially what we're saying is impressions are going up, meaning more people are seeing your brand, your website, your stuff in their results, but clicks are declining simultaneously. And so this means that the only people who can influence the perception that your brand receives across the web are those who can influence what's in those results. Influencing the results themselves is now more important than it ever was. It's just that the way you measure it is no longer, did we get a click to our website? That's the part that's changed. And so, for anybody who's in SEO, I think you have fantastic job security so long as you can explain that concept to your boss, your team, your client, right, at your agency. But you're going to have to change how you measure success, and you're going to have to change your goal. Your goal is now get the brand more sales, not traffic, sales, right? Like,
Yep.
Your job is help that brand improve their online perception, get those impressions, get that reach, influence people's opinions, and then make the sale.
So does that mean that SEO and CRO cannot exist without one another in this new world? Are they two separate industries, or is this, if we're talking about sales and on-site conversion optimization, that becomes a part of this entire discovery process?
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I haven't thought about a ton about this, but I would guess that a lot of the work that CRO used to do that happened in the discovery and consideration phase, which was very website centric, has now gone upstream.
Yep.
And it's happening in places that you don't own and control. And so essentially the CRO's job has changed as much, if not more, than the SEO's, where their job is now, how do we change perception and visibility and experience of people who are really experiencing all of their discovery and all of their investigation and consideration on Instagram, on Reddit, on YouTube, in ChatGPT prompt answers, in Google AI mode.
It's more complicated for sure. If I'm a brand and I want to work on my AI visibility, not rankings, share a model, what's the first thing I need to do? What's the thing for me to do in March 2026?
Figure out if your audience actually uses AI tools to get brand recommend, right? Like, I am seriously worried that the hype train,
Mhm.
the AI hype train, means that, you know, every brand thinks they have to go do AI stuff. And I was talking to the marketing team who runs a resort. It's like a wellness resort in Arizona yesterday. And one of the conversations was, hey, what percent of your audience really uses AI rather than, you know, a Google Maps hotel search, or asking their friends, or going on Instagram, or going on TikTok, or asking on Reddit, like, you know, our Chubby Travel or Big Travel or whatever? It's probably not that big. So let's just make sure. I'm not saying don't invest in it, but maybe don't invest 50% of your budget in
Oh,
it,
absolutely.
right? That'd be really crazy to go through. So the first thing to do is make sure that your audience is actually using these AI tools to do the things that you expect. The second thing that I would say after that, once you confirm that and you're sort of like, okay, this is how much budget and time and effort we should put towards this. The second thing is figuring out how you need to position yourself to win in those spaces, right? Like, hopefully you already know that your ideal customer and your ideal customer perception match a set of words and descriptions that when those click, people buy from you. Like when you say, hey, our wellness resort is the absolute perfect place for mindful women travelers between 35 and 55. Great, fantastic, amazing. Knowing that, you know how you need to describe yourselves and the words and phrases you need to be around, and you know which Forbes travel list to be on and which one to ignore, and you know which PR outlets to have your PR person pitch and which ones to ignore, and you know when to participate in a Reddit conversation and when to ignore it, and which YouTube videos and which influencers to bring to your resort. Like all those things. But you can waste a lot of time and energy if you don't have that dialed in.
But dialing that in is a lot of work. And most
I,
most brands, no, I'm not saying don't do it.
this
I'm
is
not
good. This is good for marketing employment. I'm telling you.
absolutely is. But the reason most brands never did that is because paying for ads or just tricking Google to rank me number one is a shortcut, and it's easier to do and it's faster, easier to justify spending money on. I'm not saying any of this is good, but that there is a reason the
You're right.
entire most of digital marketing industry is built on these principles. Let's get the shortcut. Let's get something that works today because my boss expects something on Monday.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I guess we're kind of fixing all of that. This is a great setup
I mean,
for the final question.
I think this is,
Yeah.
Sanya, I think this is on marketers to convince their bosses, right? Like it's your job to convince your boss of how things work. And if you cannot, please go find a boss who will believe in the way marketing actually works.
Great advice. Final question. We started with the best thing about AI on the internet. Big part of it.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that if you could kill it today and remove it today, you just snap your fingers and do it? We're not talking about brands. I'm not asking for a hot take or anything like that.
I think for me, it's probably visual content. I think one of two things should be true. Either AI should entirely stop creating visual content, and you know, policymakers should outlaw it. Should essentially say, hey, that is not a legal way to create stuff. If we find stuff that's made this way and it is published publicly, the person responsible, you know, can be held accountable for some misdemeanor or crime or that kind of thing. And the only alternative that I can see is that every time an AI generates that image, whatever artists' works were used to create, you know, to train that data, get a paycheck. Like, oh, you want to make a video that looks like, you know, Disney's The Incredibles? Well, guess what? Disney gets a paycheck. You know, like Disney takes a cut of that. And actually, Disney is a good example because they might be the ones in a lawsuit to be able to force AIs to actually pay them because they're,
I was gonna
that
say
stuff
I
is
don't feel
trained on.
bad for Disney, but what they did to
No.
Ghibli Studio, what Sam Altman's Twitter avatar is still, I think he has to change it. It's still Ghibli.
I mean, it's just a giant middle finger to
yes, and
everything about copyright law and how artists should be treated and how creatives deserve money. And he's basically saying, because I am rich and powerful and a billionaire,
I can do
and
this. Yep.
whatever, like an Epstein style character, like I'm not talking about like
of course, absolutely not.
like the sexual assault stuff, but he is in that world and that kind of character, and those gestures, right? Making his avatar that is essentially a public, constant F you to anyone who believes that artists should be treated fairly, should be paid for their work, that they own their work, that creativity belongs to a human.
Yes, and that is
first of all, that's the thing I hate most.
First of all, you just killed mornings for a lot of seniors on Facebook. They will not be able to scroll and see all those visuals that were AI generated. They will be sad now. Sorry, all the cat videos, all the cats playing pianos and all that stuff. You just killed all of that. I mean,
I guess it's better than them seeing Trump is Jesus memes. So
hockey player is the latest one that I've seen this morning, and it's worth checking out. I'll just say that.
Oh God,
Rand, thank you again. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure for me as well. You're a wonderful interviewer, and I really enjoyed our conversation. If you make it to Seattle, Washington, drop me a line.
When
so
you
we can
get the Sonics back, I will. I'll tell you that. Because that was my team in the 90s. I loved them. Sean Kemp's Gary Payton era of Sonics is just...
Benoit Benjamin. Oh my God. Ray Allen. I mean, we had Ray Allen.
It was the team of the 90s. As much as the Bulls were, I think the Sonics were that even more. I hope we get them back. There's some rumblings that it might happen. So we'll see.
Yeah. I think that all the sports leagues have been pointing at the Sonics for, 3 decades and saying, like, if you don't fund a stadium, voters, we'll take your team.
There you go. You deserve to have them back. What is the best way for people to connect with you and follow you?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so if you are interested in understanding what your audience does on the internet, their behaviors and demographics, and whether they use AI tools, for example, SparkToro.com is a great place to go. If you think Google Alerts sucks and you're wondering why it's even still a product and you wish that something would help you track your brand, alertmouse.com is free. Passion project with a couple of co-founders. And if you love cooking video games where you forage and fight monsters and bring back your pancetta and make your spaghetti alla carbonara, you can check out snackbarstudio.com, where we are making our first video game that launches next year.
That sounds absolutely amazing. I cannot wait for the game. Ryan, thank you so much, everyone listening. I will talk to you next week.